At 92, Joan Collins finally shares the truth behind Marilyn Monroe's death. Joan Collins was born Dame Joan Henrietta Collins on May 23, 1933, in Paddington, London, England. Collins grew up in a creative and driven family. Her dad, Joseph William Collins, was a well-known theater agent whose clients included big stars like Shirley Bassey and Tom Jones. Her mom, Elsa Besant, was a former nightclub hostess who loved fashion and telling fun stories. These influences helped young Joan fall in love with the world of acting and bet a world she would one day rule. Collins started acting when she was a teenager, going to the famous Royal Academy of Dramatic Art called RADA, where she practiced her skills and quickly stood out for her beauty, smarts, and strong screen presence. She made her first movie in the early 1950s and was soon called the British Bridget Bardot, a name she both liked and didn't. Her early work in British movies included dramas and crime stories like I Believe in You 1952 and Turn the Key Softly 1953, which had her mix of gentle emotion and confidence. By the mid-1950s, her looks and talent caught Hollywood's eye, and she signed with 20th Century Fox, starting her rise to worldwide fame. During her Hollywood years, Joan Collins worked with some of the biggest stars ever. She acted with Paul Newman in The Silver Chalice 1954, Richard Burton in The Girl on the Red Velvet Swing 1955, and Bette Davis in The Virgin Queen 1955. Her stunning looks, expressive ease, and powerful voice made her great for both old-time stories and modern dramas. But even with her success, Hollywood often typecast her as the seductive woman, which kept her from trying more kinds of roles. Still, Collins made the best of it, turning every role into a show of charm, timing, and determination. As the years went on, Joan showed that her real strength was her ability to change with the times. While many stars of her generation faded when the golden age of Hollywood ended, she found ways to reinvent herself again and again. In the 1960s and 1970s, she added more to her career by working in television and theater and also acting in European movies. She became a familiar face on talk shows and in fashion magazines, known not only for her acting but also for her sharp wit and classy sense of style. Her roles in movies like The Stud 1978 and The Bitch 1979, both based on books by her sister Jackie Collins, brought her back into the spotlight and made her a symbol of strong, confident women at a time when Hollywood was starting to be bold again. Then came Dynasty. In 1981, Joan Collins joined the hit show as Alexis Carrington Colby, one of the most famous TV characters ever created. Alexis was beautiful, clever, and fiercely ambitious, qualities that Joan filled with humor and emotion. Her performance turned Alexis into a worldwide sensation and changed how people saw female villains on television. For 9 years, Joan ruled prime time TV, winning a Golden Globe in 1983 and earning many Emmy nominations. Audiences loved her glamorous clothes, sharp dialogue, and fearless energy. More importantly, she became a symbol of female power, a strong, driven woman who played by her own rules in a man's world. Along with her acting, Joan Collins also became a successful writer. Her memoirs and novels, like Past Imperfect and Prime Time, showed her humor, brains, and deep understanding of fame, Hollywood, and womanhood. Her writing proved she was more than just a star. She was a storyteller who truly understood people, with a mix of honesty, kindness, and class. She also spoke out early for women's rights and fairness in the entertainment business, long before it became a popular cause. Joan Collins, one of the most stylish and lasting icons in film and TV history, has lived a personal life as dramatic and fascinating as any role she's ever played on screen. Her love life shows both her strength and her big heart. Even with all the challenges that come with fame and fortune, over the years, she's been married 5 times, each marriage having its sound story, emotions, and lessons. Through them all, Joan has stayed true to herself, graceful, bold, and never afraid to love again, even when it meant getting her heart broken. Her first marriage was to Northernerish actor Maxwell Reed, whom she married in 1952 when she was just 19 years old. Reed was known for his parts in British movies like Nightbeat and Daybreak. He was older and already famous. At that time, Joan was a young rising star under contract with the Rank organization, and their marriage looked like a glamorous match between 2 actors on the edge of big success. But behind all the glitter, their relationship had problems. Reed was said to be jealous and quick-tempered, and Joan later talked openly about the dark side of their marriage, including how controlling he could be. Even though she tried to stay hopeful, she soon realized the marriage couldn't last, and they divorced in 1956. That painful time taught her hard but important lessons about independence, self-worth, and wish should never let her spirit or career be controlled by anyone else's insecurities. Her second marriage was to singer, songwriter, and actor Anthony Newley in 1963. Their relationship was full of creative passion but also a lot of drama. Newley was a charming performer who had become world famous for his music and stage shows. Together, he and Joan were one of the most glamorous couples in Britain during the 1960s. They had 2 children, Tara and Alexander, whom Joan often calls her greatest joys in life. But their marriage wasn't peaceful. Newley's artistic moods and reputation for cheating made things difficult, and Joan often had to juggle her growing career in Hollywood while caring for her family. Even though they divorced in 1971, Joan still spoke kindly about Newley's creativity and charm, saying he helped her see both the beauty and pain of life in show business. Their love story wasn't perfect, but there was a deep bond of love and respect that lasted long after they separated. Joan's third marriage was to music executive Ronald S. Cass in 1972. This time, she found the stability and maturity she had been looking for. Cass had been president of Apple Records, the label linked with the Beatles. He brought charm, wisdom, and an understanding of the entertainment world that matched Joan's own drive. They lived a busy and stylish life, moving between London, Los Angeles, and other glamorous cities. But over time, money problems and Cass's personal issues put stress on the marriage. Their divorce in 1983 was painful for Joan, especially since she was rebuilding her career with her famous role as Alexis Carrington on Dynasty. As always, Joan turned her pain into power, using her struggles to fuel her work and once again rise to international fame. In 1985, Joan married her fourth husband, Peter Holm, a Swedish singer and businessman. The relationship began with excitement and passion. Holm promised Joan a new sense of energy and happiness after years of hard work and personal ups and downs. But the marriage quickly became rocky. The media followed their every move, and their arguments often made headlines. Their relationship fell apart with public fights, harsh words, and power struggles. When they divorced in 1987, it became one of Hollywood's most talked about breakups, filled with lawsuits and dramatic statements in the press. Through it all, Joan stayed calm and classy, showing her strength once again. She later said that marrying Holm was a mistake, but one that taught her a lot about self-respect and being careful with her heart. She joked Thatch was a slow learner when it came to picking husbands, but still believed in love. Then in 2002, Joan finally found lasting happiness when she married Percy Gibson, a theater producer who was 32 years younger than her. Their age difference made headlines, but Joan and Percy proved their own wrong. They became one of Hollywood's most admired couples. Their relationship is full of love, laughter, and mutual respect. Joan often praises Percy for being calm, kind, and always supportive of her career and charity work. Together, they've built a strong and loving partnership that has lasted much longer than people expected. It shows that real love and shared values matter more than age. Joan often says she finally found her true soulmate in Percy, calling him not just her husband but also her best friend. Over the years, the mysterious death of Marilyn Monroe has stayed one of Hollywood's biggest and saddest stories. Her death was officially ruled a likely suicide from a barbiturative in August 1962. But ever since then, people have come up with many theories about fame, politics, and even cover-ups by powerful people. For years, most of Monroe's Hollywood friends stayed silent about what they knew or believed. But Joan Collins, one of the last living legends from that golden time, recently spoke out more openly than ever before, sharing her honest thoughts about what really happened and giving new insight into Monroe's final days. Joan Collins, who started her career in the early 1950s, the same studio system that built and then broke Monroe Hasselways, felt both fascination and sadness for her fellow actress. Marilyn was not just a sex symbol, Joan said. She was a fragile and smart woman who wanted people to take her seriously. The sad part is that Hollywood rarely lets women be both beautiful and respected. When Joan remembered meeting Marilyn, She described her as someone who lit up a room but whose smile never quit or reached her eyes. You could feel something underneath: tiredness, loneliness, and fear that she was being used more than loved, Joan recalled. In her recent interviews, Joan talked about how harsh the movie business was for women in the 1950s and 1960s. Back then, she said, there were no rules to protect young actresses. Studios controlled you, producer manipulated you, and people judged you only for your looks. Marilyn had it the worst because she was every honest fantasy, and fantasies aren't alouette have real feelings. Joan explained that Marilyn's drug use wasn't the cause, but a symptom. Those pills helped her sleep, escape, and shut out all the noise in her head and around her. Everyone wanted something from her, and when she had nothing left to give, they vanished. When asked about Marilyn's death, Joan's tone became serious. I don't believe Marilyn wanted to die that night, she said. I think she was silenced, maybe not murdered in the usual way, but shut down by the life she was forced to live. Too many powerful men had too much to lose if she kept talking. She knew secrets, and in Hollywood, secrets are more dangerous than guns. Joan didn't name anyone, but her meaning was clear. Marilyn's links to the Kennedy brothers and other big figures may have put her in real danger. She also pointed out how Marilyn's death was handled in public, saying the story seemed too clean. People were too quick to call her a tragic, self-destructive woman, Joan said, but the truth is, she was more of a victim than a villain. Friends close to her told me she was tired, yes, but she was also making plans for the future. She hadn't given up. Joan's words matter not just because she lived through that cruel Hollywood era, but because she survived it. We were all part of a machine, she said. The studio system looked shiny on the outside, but it chewed people up and spit them out. Marilyn was the brightest star, and bright stars burn out the fastest. But I believe she was pushed, not just lost. For Joan, speaking about Marilyn's death wasn't about spreading rumors, but honoring a woman who never got to tell her story. The world fell in love with an image: the blonde bombshell, the laughing girl in the white dress, but that image destroyed the real woman inside. I want people to remember Marilyn as a person, not just a legend, because behind that legend was a gentle soul who didn't belong in the cruel world of Hollywood. Be wise sharing her truth. Joan Collins reminds us that Marilyn Monroe's tragedy isn't just about how she died, it's about what her death stands for. It shows the price of beauty, fame, and vulnerability in a place that loves fantasy more than truth. Marilyn's story, Joan said, isn't just one woman's fall. It's a warning for every woman who ever thought Hollywood would love her back. Through her heartfelt words, Joan Collins not only shares her view of truth but also gives a touching tribute to another actress whose light still shines in people's hearts, a light that was bright, beautiful, and gone too soon, but never forgotten.